Let's talk about Texas. The voters are heading to the polls today. Key Republican primary runoffs. It is the U.S. Senate race between incumbent Senator John Cornyn and the recently Trump-endorsed candidate, Attorney General Ken Paxton. And President Trump criticizing Cornyn on Truth Social, saying Ken's opponent was very disloyal to me as president and didn't fight hard enough for the desperately needed Save America Act. We know that is obviously one thing that President Trump wants, and most Americans support as well for voter integrity. Let's bring in our panel to talk Texas. Host of Sandy Rios 24/7 and author of God's Velvet Hammer, Sandy Rios. And Democrat strategist, former Obama campaign director, Robin Biro. So it's framing as, you know, Paxton's a fighter going to get Save America, and you got establishment John Cornyn. Sandy, I'll start with you. Most people aren't worried about Paxton pulling this off. Is this going to be a big victory, you think, tonight for Ken Paxton's camp?
Well, one never knows, but I sure am hoping for that. I think Ken is a superior candidate. John Cornyn has just occupied a seat in the Senate, and I've seen him deceive his voters every election cycle since I've been watching. He always acts like this big conservative, but he doesn't vote that way. He really betrays his voters. So he has a pattern. He's very consistent. Ken Paxton, on the other hand, I've known him for years, since I was president of Concerned Women for America, and I've known him to be a man of action. He does things. He does really good things. I think people have concerns about his private life, which if we had a perfect candidate, that would be great. Don't think we have that, but we do have a man who gets things done, and he gets great things done. He's bold and brave. I like him. I hope he wins.
President Trump obviously wants Save America. It seems like there's a lot of dysfunction right now in the Senate. And staying in Texas for a minute, you can pick up on what Sandy was just saying about Paxton, Robin, but also James Tallarico, the Democrat. I mean, wow, the stuff he said about God being binary, 6 genders. He wants to, you know, kind of control meat. I mean, in Texas with ranching, seems like a terrible candidate.
Who knows? Just like Sandy said, this is Texas. You know, Texas reminds me of the state I'm talking to you from, Georgia. They can go their own way. You know what I mean? They're not really followers out there in Texas. So it's kind of anyone's guess how this is going to go tonight. Tallarico could pull off a win, but I do think that the Trump endorsement will have a big effect tonight with the Republican candidates.
All right, I want to talk about L.A. because Mayor Pratt says the city has sufficient funds to address a lot of the issues, homelessness, emergency services. He's claiming that there's fraud and even theft of taxpayer money. Here he is.
You pay countless tax dollars. You're taxed on your income. You're taxed on your gas. You're taxed on your property. You're taxed out every single expensive transaction you endure is taxed. Yes, hundreds of restaurants have shut their doors thanks to Karen Bass and Nikki Raman. Businesses are fleeing their terrible leadership, so revenue is decreasing, and I will turn that around. But we have plenty of money in this city. It's just being stolen.
Ooh, Sandy, his ads. This is not AI. These are serious claims, and we know J.D. Vance is looking at fraud in other ways as well. Talk to us about how this message lands, if you think they are going to vote for Pratt if he has this.
I think one thing that stands out about Spencer Pratt is just authenticity. You know, he's skin in the game. He lost his home in the Palisades fire, and he spoke from his heart with those ruins behind him about the Mayor Karen Bass and the horrible way she handled that. And he's spot on everything he says. It's just common sense. It's like truth sometimes, you know. There's a famous quote about that, how refreshing. I don't know, truth is an act of whatever in a time of trouble, but it's unusual to have someone so transparent and truthful. Reminds me of Ron DeSantis, reminds me of other candidates. We've seen a lot of truth-telling in candidates this last few years, which is something Washington, it's like Dracula with a cross. They hate that, most of them. And I think Spencer is refreshing. I love what he says. Man, if you've got a choice between Karen Bass, who was out of the country, like yawning, silent during an interview after that fire, and you can vote for a man who actually lost his house and do something about it, who has great ideas, creative, let him have a chance, for heaven's sake.
You know, we're going to see probably even more detractors come out against him. Today, it's the former Real Housewife of Beverly Hills star, Lisa Rinna, She dismissed his candidacy, and she says, I'm a reality person. You wouldn't want me as mayor, implying that this is just who he is. He's just a reality star. But it was funny when, I guess, the reporters there asked her, well, who do you want? She's like, oh, it should be Matt Mahan, who's the mayor of San Jose. He's running for governor. So I'm not sure why Lisa Rinna is weighing into this, but reality star or not, Robin, doesn't seem like Spencer Pratt is just that. He seems to have a lot more, as Sandy pointed out.
Like Sandy said, I think his message is meeting the moment. I'm actually quite concerned as a Democrat because of that. I've got friends who are Democrats who are donating to his campaign. So that tells me right there that his message is crossing boundaries. It's being heard not just by Republicans, but by some moderates too. And Democrats need to pay attention because his ads are very effective. He's been criticized quite a bit for using AI, but it doesn't really matter. If it's meeting the moment, it's meeting the moment.
Yeah, I would be worried too. And again, someone tell Lisa Rinna maybe she wants to bone up on her politics before they're using her. And they probably are just using her as Karen Bass wants to try to get this.
Could I comment on her
Sure,
claim?
real quick.
Well, just think about the men that have led our country. And none of them, the greatest of them have not been the ones with 6 degrees, and $100 million. I think of Ronald Reagan. He was an actor, for heaven's sake. What did he know? But he knew a lot. Think of Abraham Lincoln, who, split rails and was self-taught. One of the greatest presidents we ever had. George Washington didn't even have an advanced degree. He was
It's a great point. And again, it's more or less also, she's not saying why Karen Bass deserves it. It's just negative, which is how they do it with Trump. Got to leave it there. We're out of time. Sandy, Robin, come back soon. I appreciate you both.